GMTK Game Jam 2024 begins right now.
Alright, time to get started. Hello, Muticise here. I'm a game developer and this is how I made a game for this year's GMTK Game Jam. Around the theme,
Built to Scale.
Maybe some of you noticed, I haven't been around for a year since I started university. This jam will be my way to get back to making games, and I'm pretty motivated for it. In this video, I'm gonna talk about my development journey of this short game. Let's get to work. Initially, I tried to find a fitting interpretation to the theme, Built to Scale. My first thought was an FPS puzzle game, where you could scale yourself up and down, but after a bit of consideration, having a well-designed FPS game in 4 days could be a bit too much for me. Most of the FPS games I made took at least a week or two, sometimes even months, and they still had prototype textures and janky animations. So I took a different turn in my design and chose to do a 2D platformer with some puzzle elements. Here's our first player. I'm gonna call him Square Guy. With this gun, our character will be able to hold, move, shrink and grow objects. This is the first product I got with our Square Guy. I added a bit more juice to this character controller compared to my other ones, and it felt great playing with it. It's much more squishy and stretchy, and I think it gives the player some nice feedback in regards to movement. I also made the gun control so that the player's hand, and also the gun, always look at your mouse cursor. I achieved this with a bit of vector math and some trigonometry. Here's a diagram if you're curious about it. Also, this art style is definitely not gonna stick around, but it's just fine to test some gameplay. Even though my first prototype's done, this game isn't gonna release with still colors and level design text notes all over it, so I should probably choose a visual theme. I made a nice tile set to give some life to the prototype levels I made, and this is how it changed. I also got rid of Square Guy. Because of time restrictions, I had to scrap some mechanics like turrets, lasers and ladders. I used the ladder sprite as decoration on some levels, and instead of lasers, I added blue barriers, which let items pass through them, but not the player. I also added switches that enabled them and disabled them. Now that I have a tile set, I can make levels pretty easily. It's now time to bring some stuff to life. The game ended up being around 8 levels, and to be honest, it's shorter than I hoped it would be. I chose to give the game a bit more story and polish, so I added sounds for walking, jumping, picking up objects and resizing them. I made a landing particle and added sounds for it. I also put another scientist in the game, which is voiced by my sister. There isn't much dialogue in the game, but I think it adds enough story to the experience. I also want to thank Sarp, my music guy again. He made a great piece of art that helps a lot with the game's atmosphere. I wrapped the game up, made a very basic main menu screen with some credits, and uploaded it as my submission. After this, it was time to try other people's games and wait for the result for feedback and opinions. After taking some well-deserved rest, I couldn't wait to see how the game did, and my rankings were 2,800 out of 7,700 games. Not gonna lie, I was expecting better, but I'm not gonna get demotivated. This only shows I need to do better next time. I'm even more spiked. You'll see, this is just the beginning. You cannot stop me. Haha, ha. Now that the jam's over, I've had some time to think about the whole experience, and so here are my thoughts. With the ratings out of consideration, I just want to say I'm happy to be developing games again. I've joined a few previous jams of GMTK, but I could never come up with a finished product. I can say this is one of my shorter games, both with the content itself and also the time it took me to make. The only 2D game similar to this one that I made was the first game I had ever made, Zebel's Lair, and I can clearly see how I improved, even in 2D, a genre I don't often develop in. That said, This game has its fair share of frustrating bugs, especially with Unity's 2D physics. I'm hoping I won't have these kind of bugs on the next project. I also think that initially I had too many mechanics in mind, which could have resulted in scope creep were I not careful about what and what not to put in the final product. I also learned the hard way around that I have to improve my art to make my games stand out more. Anyways, that's it. I hope you'll give my game a try and stick around. I'll be around more often. If you joined this year's GMTK Game Jam as well, let me know how your development process went. I'd love to hear how it went for others. Also, it would mean a lot if you liked and subscribed. But either way, take care. Goodbye.